I'm Mollie Cox Bryan, author of Macrame Murder. You're watching Author's Voice.
Hi everyone, this is Sonali Dev and welcome to Lit with Love on authorsvoice.net, where we connect authors to the world. On Lit with Love we have romance authors that we bring to you for a little chat, and today we have with us Mollie Cox Bryan, who is a friend and our first cozy mystery author. And her beautiful book that we're going to talk about today is Macrame Murder. And it is actually my first cozy mystery ever. So Mollie said to me earlier, "You're a cozy mystery virgin," and I said, "Yes, you just popped my cherry." So on that lovely note, we're going to get started. But I wanted to remind you that we have a little button beneath the screen that you can use to buy books and send in questions. So please do. And welcome, Mollie.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Now, before we start talking about the book, and you tell us about the book, one of the things we talked about just before the show was that this is not your first on-screen appearance.
Right.
Mollie has had quite a celebrity experience.
Yeah. I was contacted by a German game show because my grandfather's cousin was Jean Harlow, who was a famous movie star in the 1930s. And this German game show it's sort of like What's My Line, where people would, ask questions about your ancestor and they have to guess who it is. And so they flew me over first class, which was a treat. And I had always wanted to go to Germany and had never been there. So I spread the trip out, and I went to see some of the castles. But it was challenging because it was all in German. And while I was being interviewed by the host, I had an earbud in my ear, and somebody was translating in English, and he was in front of me speaking in German, so it was a little interesting.
So I feel honored that you're here. And we don't need translation.
Thank goodness.
So welcome. I just wanted to start us out with you telling us a little bit about Macrame Murder, and it is the third book in a series. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about the series and the book.
The series follows a young woman and her friend who are starting a craft retreat in North Carolina in a fictional town, Indigo Gap. And most of the series takes place in Indigo Gap. They have retreats where guest teachers come for each retreat, and they have new people, new retreaters that come. So there's plenty of opportunity for murder and mischief. And but this particular book, they have been invited to another retreat at a beach, at an island. And so they are the guests of the retreat. And trouble still finds them, so there's still a murder that happens, and in this particular book, Cora, her boyfriend is accused of murder, and she has to work very hard to prove his innocence.
And this was also the setting. I thought was very interesting, which is the craft retreat, and I was wondering, are you a crafter? Is that where this came from?
Yes, I mostly scrapbook, and my first series was a scrapbooking mystery series, and it's people getting together and loving one kind of craft and sharing, and I think that's it's a sense of community. And so I do craft. Now I'm doing embroidery. I'm learning how to do that. And right now, my publisher, Kensington, is giving away one of my embroidery pieces, which is just a very simple little pumpkin, So, and I love to try different things, but I'm not very good. Like, but it's not about that, which is what, in the books, it's about trying different things and enjoying yourself and enjoying the company. And crafting has a very healing element to it as well, which is one of the big factors in the book, because Cora was a counselor before, and she wanted to continue to help people, and crafting can do that. There's a lot of research out there with knitting and crochet, and that rhythm and the texture of the yarn, and it's all very, very good for you.
Yeah, and I used to crochet a lot. I've never really gotten into knitting. I've done some knitting with my mother-in-law, so there is that lovely bonding over things kind of, and meditative repetition, which you talk about in the book. And I know my mother-in-law and I have done pieces together, because I don't have the patience to do a piece myself, so when I get bored. But we do have the same, I think in India we call it hand. You have the same hand, which means your weave, your knit looks the same, because pressure is different based on each person's style. So if two people can do a piece together without anyone being able to tell this part was done by you, this part was done by me, then there's that having the same hand at a thing.
Really cool.
Yeah,
How wonderful that you're doing that.
Yeah, well, we did it. This was, I think, when my kids were little, is when we did it. We did a lot of Afghans and things like that. But the reason I brought that up is, I enjoyed crochet, but after reading this book, I almost wanted to go and knit, which is a big thing for me, because you make it sound so meditative and fabulous. And even, I think the whole thing about sea glass, it's weird when you read books and things that resonate with you. Sea glass is like, I think, one of my favorite words. Something about what it invokes and evokes is just so lovely.
Right.
And I have to go in and read this line, because it stopped me, and I just thought it was so lovely. Her boyfriend Adrian says, "I've always found sea glass fascinating," and he says it's like a reverse gemstone, which is such an interesting thing. And the way he explains it is, gemstones are made by nature and refined by people. Sea glass is made by people and refined by the sea. And that was lovely. And so, there's that lovely coziness about this. And it being my first cozy mystery, it was like, oh yes, this is this is cozy. So your first series is, okay, first I'm going to step back and I'll give you a chance to tell the viewers how to win that tapestry or that embroidery piece that's up for giveaway. You want to tell them how they can win it?
They can go to Kensington Books on Tumblr. It's on Tumblr, and they have a variety of giveaways right now. And they're giving away my pumpkin and a book and a little sewing kit.
That's so lovely.
Yeah, so kensingtonbooks.com.
I wish we had a picture, but maybe we'll try and put it out on Twitter, and so you can follow Mollie or me on Twitter and get to it. So you said scrapbooking. Your previous series is based in the scrapbooking craft world, so to speak. But there's just so many different kinds of things you write, because you also write romance and these series. You want to talk a little bit about what your range is, because about your other series and your other books, and then you have something coming out in a week also.
Yeah, I have a novella coming out next week, and it's Mistletoe for Mara, and it's set in Marina Adair's St. Helena Vineyard Kindle world, and there will be a group of, I think, about 18 authors who are releasing the same day, and it's the third release of her Kindle world. And that's been a lot of fun for me, because writing mysteries, even light mysteries, it can get depressing, because you're writing about murder, and so writing romances, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a challenge too, because as you mentioned earlier, they're very different. And I am, my next book comes out in August after the romance.
Okay, that in August of this year?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's great. I misunderstood it to be next August, so that's great. We'll have the next one sooner than I had thought. That's well, it is August next year. I'm losing it. All right. So you're so right, because one of the things also that I was thinking is that there are things that are very dark that are going on in these books. You know, people are being murdered, and there's rarely anything darker than murder.
Right.
But you tend to keep the tone of the books light,
Right.
and escapist almost, and you know, a cozy place to be.
Right.
So how does that work, and is that what draws you into this genre?
It is. You know, we, as writers, we all have choices as to what level of violence we want to write about, the detail, the graphic nature of it, and all the violence in cozy mysteries happens off the page. And, you know, you don't want to devalue what has actually happened, and I think that you do get feelings of sorrow and you know from the murder, but these are people, and you know they're amateur sleuths. All cozy mysteries have amateur sleuths in them. They're small towns, and you know there's everyday people that are confronted with this, and so you have to kind of keep it. You know, what would an ordinary person do if they ran into a murder victim? You know. Like in my first, in Death Among the Doilies, what Cora does is she passes out, you know. I think that's probably what I would do. Yeah, so it is a fine line. And frankly, I rely on my editor sometimes, you know. When I turn in a manuscript, I know he's going to come back and say, that's not cozy. You know, we need to change it. Yeah.
And I have to say, you have, you know, the best editor in the world.
Yes, I do. I do.
Because we have the same editor.
Yeah, we love Martin.
So yes, we do love Martin. Hi, Martin, if you're watching. There were so many things in there that I want to unpack, and I think some of it comes back to process, because there's such a huge cast of characters, I mean, how do you keep that straight? Do you create the characters first? You know, or the plot first? What is your process for keeping all of this straight and for coming up with the stories?
Well, usually the characters come to me first. And like with Cora, she came to me when I was working on the scrapbooking series. So I was going to have her as a guest in that series, but then her voice was so strong. And I usually start when I go to actually do the writing. I start with the murder and I start asking questions, but I never know. I'm very much a pantser. I never know who the killer is until I'm at least halfway into the book, and then sometimes even after that I change my mind. And I like that because I think. It keeps the readers guessing too. I think that's why, readers have said to me, I can't guess who the killer is. It's always a surprise. And I'm like, yeah, for me too.
It's got to be, because
Yeah.
it is. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And there's this whole experience of your suspicion is, I guess the overreaching feeling of reading these books is suspicion, because you're continuously going, oh, it could be him, oh, it could be her. Oh,
Right.
it could be, like every
Yeah.
single character feels like they could be the killer. And for somebody like me, it made me very anxious.
I'm sorry.
But I guess that also kind of keeps you reading, and
Right.
it's a safe anxiety, which is great. They say that about romance too. It's a safe place to feel the pain of love and all of that, right? So yeah, it's funny how you don't know who the killer is, because I mean, seriously, at every point I was like, it's her boyfriend, no, it's her friend, it's the lawyer, it's everybody. And how do you keep track of that? Do you have a Bible?
Yeah, I do. I have the document open when I'm writing, with the names of the characters and, a little bit about them, their hair color, their eyes, because I don't want to switch that around. I'm sure I've done that somewhere, So I do. I keep a Bible, sort of on my desktop when I'm writing them.
A series Bible. That's fabulous. We do have a question from Nikki Houston. Thank you, Nikki. And she says, these books seem wonderful. They are. I can't wait to read some. What is the best craft for murder? She says, asking for a friend.
That's Have you ever seen knitting needles?
Oh my gosh. I'm never going to see them the same
Yeah,
way again.
right. And then the macrame there was a body found in a macrame bag in this. So you could, there's knots that you could use to, yeah. The possibilities are endless. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the little knives that they use in scrapbooking.
Oh yeah, the X-Acto.
X-Actos.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That would be interesting. Oh my gosh, okay.
Thanks for that question.
Thanks for the question, Nikki. And one of the things that you mentioned about them usually being set in small towns.
Right.
So the setting feels like it's a character, and in this particular setting, it's an island. So are they based on experience? Do you research? How does that come about, where you set them?
Well, I live in a small town in Virginia. I live in Waynesboro, and I know, small towns. And so, and that's generally speaking, all cozy mysteries are set in small towns. But I would never set a cozy mystery in a real small town, because then you would have people coming up to you all the time and, asking you, who is that person? I know it's me, I know, and so, I don't want to offend anybody, so I make up towns, and a lot of cozy mystery writers do that. And Indigo Gap is a town that I made up in North Carolina, in the western part, in the mountains. And North Carolina is very rich, has a very rich heritage of crafting, And so I wanted to set a craft retreat someplace like that. And so this particular book, is on an island, and I like the idea of murder happening on an island. It's almost a closed room murder, and at some point, one of my characters sends her child off the island, and that's kind of a big deal because she feels like there's a danger there, and they're not letting people on and off the island because of these murders. So I did a little research about murders on islands, and but mostly I researched the sea glass. I would get so distracted by that sea glass. I found out there's sea glass societies, and there are people that are very concerned about the fact there's not as much sea glass as there used to be. So there are preservationists, and they have conferences. There's a lot of fake sea glass out there, like you have to be careful, you'll get ripped off, and so, yeah.
And people can tell, there are experts who can tell that.
Right.
Because sea glass is essentially, and I'm quite ignorant about it, I think it's gorgeous, but it's basically bottles and other glass that was left in the ocean, and that the ocean has kind of turned into this gemstone, right?
Yeah.
So you could just create a machine to make them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fabulous. And the name Indigo Gap is also something you made up.
Right. Yeah, indigo is a kind of a dye that parts of North Carolina at one time in its history was famous for. And so I thought it would be good to bring, and I love that, the sound of that, indigo. And so I, worked that into a name. But it took forever to come up with a name, yeah.
And speaking of names, your titles are so fun, First, tell us a few of them, because they're really clever, and I want to know how you come up with them.
Okay, the first one in this series I really like, Death Among the Doilies. And for the longest time, I could not say it without laughing. And so what I did with that is, Martin would say, do you have any title ideas? And I would come up with a list. And I liked another title better, but he liked that one the best. And so we went with that one. And because he said, everybody in the office, when he said it, they laughed. And he said, that's a great reaction to have. And the next book is No Charm Intended. I think I came...
That's so clever.
And so there's a lot about charms, and different kinds of charms, clay charms, and then there's also a charm, like a spell, that's in the book. So that was a fun book to write. So the cozy mysteries, a lot of their titles are pun-like.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would seem so.
Yeah.
And what is the next one? Because that's absolutely brilliant too.
Assault and Beatery.
That's lovely, and that's the August book.
Yes.
Assault and Beatery. Oh my gosh! So have you done research on beating? Is it
Oh
something?
yeah. That book's been turned in.
Wow.
And right now I'm working on the next series. Yeah.
And is that also going to be a cozy mystery, or
No, and it's going to be with another publisher. It's the Charlotte Donovan Biography Mystery Series is what we're calling it right now, and the working title is The Jean Harlow Bombshell.
Wow! And so it has something to do with Aunt Jean?
Yes, it does. The biographer in the book that's been killed, her assistant has to finish the Jean Harlow biography, and she's in the meantime she is realizing that her boss was killed because people were trying to kill her. So that's, yes, it's just, the next books, they'll all have to do with a biography of a famous movie star. I'm not sure what's going to be next, but yeah.
Wow. So this is a period piece, or
No,
is it?
it's
Okay.
contemporary,
Okay.
but there'll be a lot of history in it because the biography, a lot of research and.
Okay. Wow. And is there a romance?
Oh yes, there's a
arc?
romance.
Okay.
It's a fun one because my main character, has a thing about police officers, and her best
When you
friend
say thing, you mean?
I mean, she knows where they all hang out. She's got quite a list of police officers that she sleeps with. So her best friend thinks it's a problem. And they have a bet at the beginning of the book that she is not allowed to sleep with any police officers for like a month. So don't you know she meets one that she is like so attracted to. So
she has to wait 30 days as the
yeah,
countdown.
Yes, she does.
That's fabulous. Because this one is fairly sweet. There's this relationship going on, but he's accused of murder, so there's that gets in the way.
Yes.
But there's an arc that starts. The romantic arc starts in book 2.
Right.
So is this stuff that you know when you're writing before you plan the books out? Or?
Well, with the romance, yeah, I have to be very careful. In cozy mysteries, cozy mystery readers are very picky about their romances. They don't want it to take over the mystery. And so, and Cora, the character, being a counselor in a women's shelter for years, doesn't have a very good feeling about relationships. So she's very leery about relationships. So it's a very slow burning romance.
It is, and yeah, they're both adorable. But of course I kept going, oh my gosh, he's the killer, and she's falling for him, he's the killer. My suspicion, meter was way up there, which is very unlike me. I was just like, oh my gosh, everybody's a murderer.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Well, things you only hear mystery authors say.
Right.
I'm so glad you were suspicious of everybody. So have you ever been to a craft retreat? Is that research-wise what you get to do?
God,
it sounds like so much fun
it
research.
Does, yeah, I've never been to. I think it's like wish fulfillment for me. When I was doing the scrapbooking series, I would do a lot of research about scrapbooking retreats and conferences and things like that. And these fabulous retreats would come up. I mean, high end, like craft retreats. They just look wonderful. Yeah, I've never been to one. If anybody would like to invite me to one, anybody out there that has one, please. Yeah.
You should sign her books for
Yeah,
you there
absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun. You want to tell us what you're reading right now and loving? Oh, another question that I had for you is, are you a reader of romance or mystery? Like, what is your, I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm all over the place. I am all over the place. I just read, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name, Amanda Boucher's, the first book in her series, The Kingmaker. Yeah. And it was fabulous.
Something of Fire.
Something of Fire, yeah. But just look up Amanda Boucher. She's
And
yeah.
she's gotten amazing buzz
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
Every single person whose opinion I trust has recommended
Yeah.
I read her.
And then I also just read M.J. Rose's Library of Light and Shadow. And I'm finding more and more that I'm reading more fantasy or something with a little bit of magic in it, something that really takes me away.
Yeah, there was a little bit of an undertone of magic in this because there's a character who's a psychic. And of course I know that it was there, for story reasons, but she's a lovely little character, and you're thinking, this is, and there's that, you believe in it a little bit, and you believe in it not being true a little bit.
Right.
So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
So Ray was an interesting, is that how you say her name? Interesting character in the book?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's great. So Amanda, and Cozy Mysteries, do you read a lot of that? Do you have recommendations?
I don't, because I enjoyed them so much, before I started writing them. But I'm so I don't want to pick up somebody else's, idea for murder or something like that. So I do still read them, and there's a series that Martin edits at Kensington. It's the Wick and Will series, and I can't think of any. Of course, I can't think of the names of any of the people, the author or the titles, but the Wick and Wheel series, and I just finished one of theirs, one of her books too, so it was pretty good. It's pretty good, yeah.
That's great. And we were also talking about how hard it is when you're on camera to remember things.
Yes.
Because you turn the camera on and I'm like, okay, Mollie's going to be on my show. What is her last name? I've known her for years, but I cannot remember her last name. So yeah, so we'll try and tweet out the names of the authors and the books that we've bumbled on.
Yeah.
I've bumbled on.
Well, one author I know, her is Susanna Kearsley. I will read anything she writes.
Oh yeah, Susanna's stuff is lovely.
Yeah.
We have to get her out here from Canada.
That'd be
So
nice.
yeah. So it was lovely having you
Thank
here.
you so
There
much.
is one thing before we go, and we have another thing in common. We had a first child go to college.
Right.
How's that been?
Well, she has really taken to New York City. She loves the city. We're still not sure about the school or the major. Her major was theater, and now she's thinking of switching to jazz vocals. She's just fallen in love with jazz. And so, college is a good time for that. But I miss her so much.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. We can talk about that a little bit after this.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here.
Thanks
This
so
was lovely.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to give them the dates and your upcoming books, names, titles?
Next week, Mistletoe for Mara comes out on the 15th. And The Salt and Beatery comes out in August of next year. Next year. And then my new series starts with Midnight Ink in 2019.
Good luck with that.
Thank
and
you.
come back and see us when the
Will
next
do,
one comes
yeah.
out. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to take you out with a list of upcoming shows on authorsvoice.net, where we connect authors to the world. So the upcoming shows are Stranger Than Fiction, November 9th, 5 p.m. Ed Gordon with Divided on D-Day. A House Divided, November 11th at noon. Graham Peck with Making an Anti-Slavery Nation. Solved. I always love how Solved has the exclamation on there. Solved. November 15th at 3 p.m. Jamie Fravoletti with Blood Run, and I'm sure I messed that last name up. Berta's Books, November 29th, 2 p.m. Donna Seaman with Identity Unknown, Rediscovering 7 American Women Artists. That sounds fabulous. A House Divided, December 1st at noon. James S. Pula with Under the Crescent Moon and the 11th Corpse in the Civil War, Volume 1. I think that title there was put in there by our producer just to flummox me. And then the last but not the least is the next episode of Lit with Love, where my friend Sally Kilpatrick will be here with her book, Bless Her Heart. And she writes these sassy Southern tales. So please tune in, send in questions, and we will see you again on December 5th with Sally and Bless Her Heart. Thank you for being here. This is Sonali Dev on Lit with Love.